Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Crazyfrankie, and I'd like to welcome you to my Week 7 4 key game picks. Before we talk about Week number 7 and the picks, very quick thoughts from Week number 6. Obviously, the big story coming out of Week number 6 is Aaron Rodgers' injured collarbone in the game against the Vikings last week. I can understand Aaron Rodgers having an argument here regarding the fact that the way he got tackled to the ground. Yeah, I mean, I can understand he was extremely angry, but from looking at the video, it technically was a legal tackle. But it's just unfortunate that losing a big star, NFL star like Aaron Rodgers, it does take its toll not just on the Packers itself, but also in the league, because he really is one of the best NFL players in the league today. And it's just unfortunate right now. They haven't ruled out that it is a season-ending injury from what I've read. Coach McCarthy said that he'll probably be out 8 weeks, but that doesn't seem very realistic. And let's be honest here. I think it is a season-ending injury. It's pretty obvious here. I don't know why they're trying to deny it, but 8 weeks, that's crazy talk right there, because you want to put Aaron Rodgers in 8 weeks, despite the fact that's already heading into Week 15 and 16 around that time. I mean, for the Packers' hope, I mean, you have to hope that Huntley gets the job done, or obviously they're going to be looking for another backup quarterback. So it does kind of hurt Green Bay's chances now to make the playoffs, and it does open the door now for the Vikings and the Lions to take over the NFC North division. Other things that came out of Week number 6, obviously the Chiefs are not undefeated anymore. They lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh finally woke up. Ben Roethlisberger's talk, really, I wonder if that talk of retirement is still in his head now, because, well, he's really been struggling, and I do agree with that. I mean, he's been in the league now more than 10 years, and it is starting to take its toll on the quarterback. And I mean, he's really become one of the best quarterbacks in the league that ever came out of the 2004 draft. But other than that, it actually was a pretty quiet Week number 6, other than just the major injury to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, other things that have happened prior to the start of Week number 7 is that Ezekiel Elliott's suspension now goes back to being on hold of another court appeal that's happening. So by looks of it, he's going to be eligible to play this Sunday after the Cowboys just had their bye week. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens now the rest of the way. And I'm going to make a quick little rant something here. I mean, I think I'm now being really into reality that Roger Goodell really, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Let's be honest. He seems like he has full authority of what's going on in the league. He doesn't. He has no control in the league right now. Franchises are moving. Players and owners and all, they're rebelling against him. It's the truth. I mean, he's really lost control of the league. And the fact, a lot of it now is political. You bring politics now into the national anthem thing, and really, I'm pretty sure a lot of you now, I think it's time for Roger Goodell to go. I really think so. He doesn't have control in the league. He's really he doesn't know what he's doing. He really isn't. Anyways, enough about that. Let's get into Week number 7. All right, let's begin with key game number 1. A very big one Thursday night. A big one in the AFC West. The Chiefs against the Raiders. As I said during the beginning of this video, the Chiefs are not undefeated anymore. Oakland losing last week to the Chargers really actually was a surprise. It really wasn't. Now, a lot of pundits say they weren't surprised by this, but come on. Every pregame show I watched before the start of the games on Sunday, everybody picked the Raiders to beat the Chargers. I already acknowledged the fact the Chargers stink this year. Both sides of the ball, they were bad. But yet somehow they managed to beat the Raiders. The Raiders' problems right now are still on defense, even though defensively they actually showed up last week against the Chargers, but they just couldn't seal the deal and tried it in. And in all honesty, that game should have been a blowout. the Raiders should have blown out the Chargers, but that didn't happen. Obviously, their defense is a big issue. Offense-wise, I think the injury to Carr is really catching up to him, and I really think now they better sit him out. Otherwise, he could injure himself permanently. So it does bring a lot of questions right now to the Raiders. Now, the Chiefs side, I mean, offense-wise, they really struggled against Pittsburgh last week. Pittsburgh did a number on their offense, really provided some turnovers, and it's really tough to say now which Chiefs team now is going to show up this Thursday night on a short week. But the way the Raiders are playing if they're having trouble with the passing game and they're struggling now to run the ball, Marshawn Lynch really hasn't been a factor in these last 2 games. The way I'm looking at it right now, you got to go with the Kansas City Chiefs here. The Chiefs swept them last year, and they know how to handle them. And the way the Raiders are playing right now, this should not be a surprise. Now, the Chiefs are a 3-point favorite in this one, and I do agree with that. The way the Raiders have been struggling lately, I think now, because the Raiders need this game more than the Chiefs do. But the Chiefs, they obviously have the much better offense. Defense-wise, they're pretty average. But they just overall are a much better team than the Raiders are in this case. And that's why you got to go with the Chiefs here. The Chiefs, I think, will win. They'll get back on track. And Oakland's season now is really, really now in danger if they lose this game to the Chiefs. So definitely I'm picking the Chiefs over the Raiders. Key game number 2, the Saints at the Packers. Now, I never thought this would actually be a key game, but it is. For a couple of reasons. For a couple of reasons here. Number 1, the Saints now are rolling now, even though despite the fact their defense is horrible. But because the way the Atlanta Falcons and a lot of teams that in the NFC South are playing right now, the door is wide open now, in all honesty. Now, the Falcons, I will get into them. They're also going to be another key game, and I will talk about that in a few minutes. The Saints right now, their offense is starting to click and roll, but they're still struggling defensively. That's still a major Achilles heel on that team. Now, Green Bay, obviously, Hundley's going to have to really fill the role now for Aaron Rodgers now. Losing Aaron Rodgers, no, they have veterans on that team, so Hundley should not have a problem throwing passes to them. But their defense really struggled last week against the Vikings. If they say their defense is good, and Dom Capers and that defense really is good, they should have gotten much closer to Minnesota. They probably could have beaten them, even without Rodgers. But now their defense now starting to become a question. They're having trouble. They're having trouble stopping the run. If Rodgers wasn't hurt, obviously the point spread would swing to Green Bay. But because he's out, New Orleans now is the favorite in this game by 5.5. And I probably would say that number should be a little bit lower. But I'll stick with it because that's what the odd makers currently have it as at the time of this video. So who do I have in this game? I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints here. I mean, it could not have come in another worse time for the Packers now. You're facing an offensive explosion that the Saints have, despite their terrible defense. But I could see this being a close game here, but because the quarterback troubles are starting to begin for Green Bay, without Rodgers here, their offense is going to seriously struggle. Their running game hasn't been all that effective, and that's why I'm going to go with the Saints here, but in a very close game. I expect a close game here. I think the Saints win by a field goal, but it should be a good one, though. It's actually going to be a good game, I think, and that's just my opinion, but I think it should be a good one here. But I like the Saints here, but it's going to be a very close game here. And I'm going to stick with it. Saints over the Packers. Key game number 3, the Monday night game. The Redskins at the Eagles. Eagles, a 5-point favorite in this one. And I kind of agree with that. Now, when I say kind of agree with it, the Eagles last week against the Panthers, even though they did play well and they actually dominated the Panthers. But when it comes down to divisional opponents, they seem to play much closer games. And the previous games, in their last game, which was back in week number 1, I mean, it was a close game. It was a very close game against the Redskins. Now, Wentz really has started, and the offense are really clicking here. Kirk Cousins and the Redskins, they had a lot of problems last week against the 49ers, in a game that they should have easily won. So it does come into mind what Redskins team is going to show up here. The Eagles look pretty strong, and they are well ahead in the NFC. I mean, obviously, for the Redskins, they need this game more than the Eagles do. The Eagles are far ahead in the NFC East. Despite all the troubles the Cowboys are having, the Giants are a mess. And the Redskins really are the only competition that the Eagles have in that division. So who do I have in this game? I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles here. I think the Eagles are going to win this game here. I think they'll sweep the Redskins here. The Redskins' offensive troubles are really showing. I mean, they had a lot of trouble against the 49ers. If that's the case, then, and we'll imagine with the way the Eagles are playing right now, what's going to come about in this game? And that's why I'm going with the Eagles here. I think the Eagles' offense is just better than the Redskins. Both teams on defense, they're pretty evenly matched, but offense-wise, the Eagles are a much better team offensively, and that's why I'm going with the Eagles here. I think the Eagles will sweep the Redskins in the series, and it'll put the Eagles well ahead in first place in the NFC East, and I don't think anybody in that division is going to catch them. I'm going to pick the Eagles over the Redskins. And finally, the big one. Obviously, you know which game I'm talking about here. The Atlanta Falcons at the New England Patriots for key game number 4. The Atlanta Falcons are really struggling, and it's really becoming a big surprise. I mean, a lot of us are saying is it a Super Bowl hangover? And I think it is. Obviously, they haven't recovered from what happened in that Super Bowl, and it's really starting to take its toll. They're getting Julio Jones back, so that does help them offense-wise. But defense-wise, there's problems. They have problems on defense. They lost 2 games. They lost 2 games that against teams like the Bills and the Dolphins that they should have beaten easily. But it seems to me Atlanta's defense is a mess. Now, you look at New England's side, yes, their defense is also a mess too. But let's face the facts. The Patriots have the better offense. Brady's really starting to click now, even though he had a bit of problems against the Jets last week, but yet they managed to come back and beat them in the end. Gronkowski had a couple of catches. I mean, he didn't seem much of a factor in a game that the Patriots took total control in the second half against the Jets. Patriots are a 3.5-point favorite, and I do agree with that. With the way the Falcons defense has been playing, I think the Patriots are going to have a field day with the Falcons. I would have loved to see if Atlanta would continue. It would have been playing well, and they wouldn't have troubles in the last few games. I mean, I would have said Atlanta would have been more of a favorite in this game, but the way they're playing right now, New England's a much bigger favorite in this game, and I agree with that. And obviously, I'm going with the Patriots here. Atlanta's defense really is becoming a problem. If Brady and the offense is the way they're playing right now, I think they're going to pick apart that Atlanta defense. This would have seemed like an excellent game, the way, the storyline going here. They want the Falcons wanting some revenge, even though it's not a Super Bowl championship. It's just a regular season game. Wanted to get some retribution. But the way the Falcons are playing right now, they're really hurting themselves on both sides of the ball. And that is why I like the Patriots in this one. I don't think Atlanta has enough to stop them. I think the Patriots win by at least 13 points here. I don't think this game will be close. I really want this game to be close, but the way Atlanta's playing right now, I mean, they really need this game right now because the Saints are catching up to them in the NFC South. And don't count out the Buccaneers and the Panthers right now. The Panthers are also in the hunt for that division as well. And this is why I'm going with the Patriots here. I think Atlanta is in deep trouble here. They're having problems on both sides of the ball, and that's why I'm going with the Patriots in this one. Patriots over the Falcons. All right, everybody, that wraps up my picks for week number 7. For all of my week 7 picks, go to thesportblog.blogspot.com. All of my picks will be posted up there for week number 7. And until then, I will see you all next week when I talk about my picks for week 8. Take care and enjoy your football weekend.